you join us at JAGGAER Rev Miami 2025. And I'm joined here in the studio by Robin Spickers, co-founder at Carbmee. And we're taking a look at the event and a bit more about you guys. Welcome, good to see you. You're very welcome. Right, let's start with the basics for anyone who isn't 100% up on what you guys do and how you work. Give me the elevator pitch. Tell me a bit about Carbmee.
100% happy to do that. So in the end, in simple terms, we help companies to reduce their emissions with a focus on supply chain emissions. And I think if you have never dealt with the topic, you didn't know how difficult it is to do in the end, because you have to rely on different data points, so procurement data, bill of material data, supplier data, and it's actually a very, very huge task to build an accurate data foundation that not only helps you to build a CO2 report, but actually helps you to drive decisions around reduction. And that's in the end why we are here. So JAGGAER is a procurement platform, and we want to help companies to make more sustainable procurement decisions by integrating CO2 data into the JAGGAER platform.
I'm always fascinated how these partnerships work, bringing the best of both parties together. Talk me through the partnership between you and JAGGAER. How does it work? How do they complement each other?
Yeah, very happy to do so. So, I mean, also JAGGAER is a quite, I would say, so JAGGAER is actually offering a variety of different products. And we have started an integration into their sourcing optimization tool, which helps in the end JAGGAER customers to enrich sourcing events proactively with CO2 data. That means if you source, it's the most interesting use cases, of course, for materials. But if you source something, Carbmee is enriching the sourcing data with CO2 data, that you get a estimation of how much CO2 emissions would be caused by that sourcing event. But this is, of course, only the beginning of the partnership, because what you want to do in the end, you want to have reliable data and then, of course, integrate it into your category management, into your spend analytics. So ultimately, the simple answer is we are enriching JAGGAER information with accurate CO2 information.
Well, let's dig into a case study if we can, because it always makes a little more sense when you can actually put it into a real-world context. On my notes here, I've got how Signify might be a very good example of that. Could you fill me in? How has that helped them?
Usually procurement is organized in different category groups, and a company like Signify might have category groups of different data complexities. So they might source electronics, metals, aluminiums, plastics. And what we do, we help Signify to build the most accurate data baseline for their materials they could imagine. So that means if we are talking about SKU or item level, so you are purchasing a unique thing from a specific supplier, we help Signify to get these information. And then they could either integrate these information into JAGGAER, or they are looking for new suppliers and new sourcing events, and I don't know, maybe they want to buy a light bulb in a huge amount. So we could help them in the end to forecast the emissions of that event. And they could maybe separate between supplier A and supplier B. And then, for instance, do a total cost of ownership analysis, because it might be misleading. Sometimes you believe that the cheapest offering might be also the best offering in terms of CO2. But this is very misleading. It could also be that the most expensive offering, if you look on the carbon prices and everything, might be the cheapest option in the end. And to make it simple, we help Signify to get to multi-dimensional decision-making with the Carbmee information.
We were talking there a little about data. And for me, what is so important is making sure that data becomes useful, because there is so much data out there. Is data on data, but you've got to be able to translate it. And being able to use carbon transparency tools married with procurement technology, how do you feel the two can continue to work together, to collaborate, to really give proper benefit when it comes to climate impact?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, in theory, you wouldn't need any software to calculate your emissions. You could do it with an Excel spreadsheet. The disadvantage is of that it would be extremely inaccurate, and you wouldn't have the option to, invite your suppliers, let suppliers update everything, have integrations into everything, and you can think about a strong carbon management solution like you think about an ERP, because an ERP has a certain data structure, so a transactional data structure with different sites, business units, disaggregation, aggregation level. And for a proper enterprise-grade carbon software, it's pretty much the same, because we are applying the ERP logic to Carbmee, and then you manage your emissions in the same accuracy or granularity as your financials. And then, of course, JAGGAER is, also integrated into an ERP. And then JAGGAER is already following the data structure of the ERP, and we are just, I don't like the term, but we are doing something like a digital twin of that and helping to enrich their data with the relevant CO2 information.
Because I think you've really hit the nail on the head there, the difference, because you could do this on a spreadsheet. Pause. But when you've actually put this data into a tool, so, such as yours, in collaboration with procurement technology, you're able to make much smarter decisions. Is that what you hear from a lot of people who've started using the platform? They've gone from a very manual way of doing things, not particularly accurate, to being actually able to make smarter decisions with the same set of data, potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in theory, you could also run your business without an ERP or without JAGGAER. You could try this, but the question is, would it work, right? And I think especially in the carbon space, we have seen an evolution, I would say, of requirements from customers. So when we started Carbmee, like almost 5 years ago, people said, CO2 accounting, it's interesting, I think we have to do it. And right now the market is really shifting from, let's say, pure compliance requirements to reduction requirements. And these companies slowly understand that when I built my first baseline on a spreadsheet, or when I built my first baseline, I call them sometimes first generation vendors, that are vendors that offer simple and easy calculations, but not as accurate as the ERP logic. These companies begin to realize that they are missing the granularity to actually drive decisions. And driving decisions could mean replacing suppliers with each other, developing suppliers, replacing materials, or for instance, rolling out reduction programs to the supply chain, and this needs to be tracked on a yearly basis. And this is in the end why an Excel spreadsheet is definitely not a suitable option for you if you take it seriously.
But I think you've, again, I love bringing the fact of compliance into this conversation, because being compliant is no longer enough. Sustainability can be a competitive business advantage. How do you feel having this kind of technology supporting you can push you from being compliant to using that data to be an advantage for your business? Yeah,
that's a great question. And I mean, that's also our daily bread and butter, helping our customers to explain, let's say, the true ROI of going beyond compliance. I think there is no general answer for all industries and all customers. I might take an example of, let's say, the automotive industry. So customers are requesting the CO2 emissions of the products you sell, which means in the end, if you look into a complex automotive supply chain, they might have 50,000 suppliers, 200,000-300,000 individual procured materials. And if you have to collect the CO2 data of every material and of every supplier, it might be a benefit for you if you can tell your customer, look, my product has the same physical capabilities, it has the same costs, but we have 50 or 60% less emissions. And then it's for you, for instance, a competitive edge to win a sourcing event. But on the other hand, it also helps you maybe in the stock market if you're publicly listed, to drive more value there. So it really depends if you're a public company, where you are in the supply chain. But there are many, many benefits besides just achieving the compliance. Yeah.
A big theme of this event is about acceleration, about looking to the future. A question I love to ask people such as yourself is how much work is going on to continuously improve and evaluate and push the boundaries of this kind of product or solution? How much work is going into that to keep improving it and never rest on your laurels?
I mean, if you look on our org chart, I think 80% of our people working in delivery, which means maybe we should have more sales and marketing budget in the end. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it doesn't matter if you are 20 years old or 4 or 5 years old. I mean, you're trying to push new features as fast as you can, and that's also what we do. So we release twice a month, and we try to build build features very quickly. But we also clearly see that the market in 25 has changed, and people understand now, okay, I can achieve compliance, but now they want to go to the next level of maturity, which is really doing the reduction and not only talking about that. And for that, you pretty much need the same set of features that an ERP system has or a procurement software like JAGGAER has, and then help these big enterprises to have one single source of truth and drive every decision out of one single platform.
And my final question really is about the event we are at these few days, JAGGAER Rev Miami 2025. For you, what's the value of being at these kind of events?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of different things, I guess. Especially in the enterprise, it's still an in-person thing. And for us, it's very key to meet our key stakeholders at JAGGAER, right? It's key to meet existing customers and potential new customers in person and talk about their needs. It's really something else than having a Zoom call because talking to them is key. And of course, on the other hand, there's a natural overlap of JAGGAER and Carbmee, which is we are aiming for the same set of customers. So we look for complex manufacturing companies, and that's also why it's quite logical for us to be here, just also to grow as a vendor and to grow as a company. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure finding out more about Carbmee. Thank you so much for joining us here at the studio here at JAGGAER Rev Miami 2025.
It was a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Thank you.